The night air in Afghanistan's Kunar province tasted like iron and storm water. Clouds pressed low over the black mountains, muting even the moonlight. 6 shadows advanced across the broken terrain, their outlines swallowed by the jagged ridges and ankle-deep scree. Through their night vision goggles, the world glowed a spectral green, alien, depthless, every rock a possible weapon, every hollow a threat. Staff Sergeant Miguel Reyes raised his fist, the signal to halt. The squad froze mid-stride, rifles tracking arcs of invisible danger. The intelligence brief had promised a clean approach to the target compound. No hostiles expected within 5 kilometers, but the air itself seemed to hum with wrongness. Reyes's gut, refined by 3 combat tours, screamed that something waited out there. He keyed his radio mic. "Command, this is Ghost Lead. The ground feels off. Request permission to reassess." Static, then a clipped voice. Cold, safe, far away. "Negative, Ghost Lead. Minimal resistance confirmed. Continue to objective." He looked at his team. Tired eyes, steady hands. Trust placed in orders that might get them killed. "Roger that," he muttered. Moving. They advanced 20 yards before the valley exploded. Gunfire tore through the silence, an eruption of muzzle flashes strobing the darkness. 2 men dropped instantly. Reyes felt the impact of a round hammer his chest plate, throwing him backward. Gasping, he dragged a wounded soldier behind a boulder, shards of stone peppering his face. "Fall back," he shouted, but their exit was already blocked. 3 insurgents emerging from the flank, rifles raised. And then movement, a blur cutting through chaos. A small figure flowed from the dark, every motion economical, deliberate. 1 insurgent crumpled with a suppressed shot. The second's rifle jerked skyward, blade glinting once before he fell wordless. The third reached for his weapon but collapsed, choking on his own breath. 3 kills in 5 seconds. Night vision caught her face. Young, composed, eyes steady behind her gear. Petty Officer Emma Hale, the new addition no one quite trusted. She knelt beside Reyes, assessing the bleeding. "Area clear," she said, voice even. "We need extraction now." Official reports would later call it enemy contact. The survivors would remember it as the night death arrived wearing discipline's face. Southern California, heat shimmered above the asphalt of Naval Base Coronado. The training yard baked under the midday sun, the smell of salt air mixing with gun oil and sweat. A loose ring of sailors and junior officers formed a circle around the central mat. Bodies still, eyes sharp, everyone sensing the electricity of impending spectacle. At the center stood Petty Officer First Class Emma Hale, compact, 5 feet 6 inches, sinewed muscle hidden under regulation fatigues. Her dark hair was cinched into a perfect bun that seemed to stretch the seriousness across her cheekbones. She waited, calm as stone, while Captain Lawrence Mercer prowled the perimeter like a lion seeking weakness. Again, Mercer barked. His voice carried across the yard, sharp, theatrical, meant for an audience. And this time, make it count. Her training partner, a nervous seaman barely out of school, lunged forward with a clumsy right hook. Hale slipped aside, redirected his momentum, and let him stumble harmlessly past. A murmur ran through the spectators, half amusement, half confusion. Mercer's face darkened. "This isn't ballet. Strike her in the jaw. A real opponent won't wait politely." The young man hesitated, mortified. Around them, uneasy laughter flickered, then died. Everyone knew the rule. Laugh with rank, not against it. Hill didn't blink. She stood in Zanshin, that state of poised readiness between breaths. Her chest rose and fell evenly. She could feel every pair of eyes, every drop of sweat sliding down her spine, but none of it touched the stillness inside. From the shade of a Humvee, Master Chief Aaron Briggs watched, arms folded. He'd seen this posture before, the quiet before a storm, the patience of mastery restrained. Mercer mistook it for fear. Briggs knew better. "Fine," Mercer sneered. "Let's give the crowd a real demonstration." Doyle, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Doyle, 6'4" and carved from steel, stepped forward. The captain's intent was clear, humiliation. Doyle's eyes, however, held a soldier's respect. He followed orders, not malice. "Full contact," Mercer ordered. No dancing. The yard fell silent except for the buzz of cicadas. Doyle advanced, testing distance. His massive fist shot forward, a blur. Hale moved a fraction, pivot, guide, twist. The Marine's own momentum carried him off balance. Her arm slid under his, rotated, locked. One heartbeat later he was on the ground, her knee between his shoulders, his airway perfectly controlled. 3 seconds. No sound from the crowd. Only the thud of Doyle's breath returning. Hale released, rose, and stepped back to parade rest. No triumph. No expression. Just calm precision. Mercer stared, his authority cracking in the heat. The quiet was louder than any applause. From the Humvee, Briggs exhaled. Control, he thought. That's real power. Long after the crowd dispersed, Master Chief Aaron Briggs sat alone in his office, the sound of air conditioning the only movement in the stale evening air. On his desk lay a personnel file stamped with the faded red letters restricted access. He had pulled it from an old encrypted archive, one he wasn't technically cleared to open anymore. The file belonged to Petty Officer Emma Hale. Scrolling through it, Briggs felt the familiar chill of recognition. Commendations without signatures. Performance reports truncated mid-paragraph. Recommendations lost in routing. It was a bureaucratic pattern he had seen too many times. Excellence quietly erased by people who found it inconvenient. For years earlier, the file said, Hale had been part of Ghost's team, a classified detachment operating in Helmand Province. The report described an ambush that annihilated her unit and left one lieutenant critically wounded. She had held that position for 18 hours under continuous enemy contact, moving the wounded officer through kill zones, setting false trails, rationing ammunition and morphine until extraction arrived. The extraction commander wrote one sentence that stopped Briggs cold. Single operator prevented total loss of unit. And yet, in the official after-action version, her name was missing. He remembered the signature at the bottom of the revision order, Captain Lawrence Mercer. Back then, Mercer had been a staff officer at CENTCOM, celebrated for immaculate paperwork and political obedience. He'd read the draft report, seen a woman credited with holding off an entire insurgent platoon, and simply could not accept it. With a few keystrokes, he reassigned credit to the extraction team and filed the truth into silence. Briggs closed the tablet and rubbed his eyes. Now, years later, that same woman had just dismantled a Marine twice her size in front of half the base, proving every line of the buried report correct. He exhaled slowly. Justice has a long memory, he murmured. The lights dimmed inside the SCF, the secure compartmented information facility, at Coronado. No phones, no signals, no leaks. Only the faint hum of filtered air and the blue glow of encrypted screens. Petty Officer First Class Emma Hale stood at attention beside Captain Mercer, Colonel Marcus Daniels from JSOC, and Master Chief Aaron Briggs. The air carried the dense weight of high-level operations, where words could start wars or end them. The monitor flickered to life. Admiral Westfield, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, filled the screen. Good morning. We'll dispense with formalities. His voice was gravel over command steel. We have confirmed intelligence on Armin Vetrov. The name struck Hale like a hammer beneath the ribs. Inside, 1,000 unprocessed images, the ambush, the smoke, the cries, flashed and dissolved. Outwardly, she didn't move. Not a flicker. Westfield continued. Vetrov is responsible for multiple U.S. casualties in Afghanistan. The window to intercept him is 36 hours. We are activating Task Force Ghost. Briggs's jaw tightened. The name had been dormant for years. Ghost Team, the unit Hale once belonged to, now a title heavy with ghosts of its own. Petty Officer Hale, Westfield said, looking directly through the camera. Given your familiarity with the target and operational environment, you'll lead this mission. Colonel Daniels will provide coordination. Captain Mercer will handle naval movement intelligence for exfil. Mercer's throat constricted. His penance had just been assigned. Understood, Admiral, he managed, voice low. The Admiral's gaze swept them. This is a surgical insertion, 3 operators, minimal footprint. Primary objective, confirm and eliminate Vetrov. Secondary, recover his digital assets. Mission authorized at the highest level. Wheels up 1900. The screen blinked dark. In the silence that followed, Hale's voice was steady. Mission acknowledged. Briggs waited until the others began to leave. Emma, he said quietly, are you sure you're clear? She met his eyes. I've been clear for 4 years. Briggs nodded once. Then make sure this ends the right way. Hale turned, her footsteps measured, already hearing the faint echo of rotors in her mind. The hunt had just been made official. The staging warehouse outside a small Romanian city smelled of diesel and cardboard, a banal shell for a very dangerous purpose. Inside, crates of innocuous gear, comm kits, spare batteries, firearm cases, lined the walls. A matte digital terrain map glowed on a central table as Petty Officer Emma Hale, Senior Chief Nathan Drake, and Chief Cara Winters leaned over it like surgeons planning an incision. Each route, contour, and choke point had been argued, adjusted, and accepted until little was left to chance. Drake traced the ridge lines. We insert high, use ridge concealment to the LZ. Drop zone is 8 clicks from target. Then a slow push through marsh and drainage to avoid known patrols. His voice was low, deliberate. He'd flown this ground in simulation a dozen times and still treated it like a new test each time. Winters added technical notes, night vision adjustments for heavy snowfall, breach tools that wouldn't set off local alarms, a secondary comm mesh if primary channels were jammed. Their movements were spare, professional choreography. Captain Mercer hovered near a console showing maritime traffic. He tapped a patrol route coming through the extraction corridor at the projected pickup time. I'll monitor this lane. Anything deviating, 5 seconds and I call it. Seconds matter, he said, hands steady despite the knot in his chest. The responsibility felt heavier here than on a courtroom schedule. This was live contribution to lives in the dark. At 2,100, the transport aircraft rolled on the runway and climbed into an ink-slick sky. In the belly of the sea, 17 to 3 operators prepared in near silence. Parachutes checked, oxygen sealed, altimeter verified. Hale sat with eyes closed, visualizing approach vectors and breach windows as if rehearsing a prayer. Drake gave a curt nod. Winters ran a last diagnostic sweep on comms. At 30,000 feet, they jumped. 3 white ghosts against a black sky, parachutes blooming into the cloudy night. The descent was an odd combination of exposure and control. Wind buffeted them. Snow swept gray-white across visors, and every second of freefall forced calm into the muscles. They hit the timberline and broke down their canopies in practice speed. For 8 kilometers, the forest swallowed them. Slow, grinding movement through knee-deep snow, marshy drainage seeping cold through uniforms. Progress was measured in compass ticks and silent hand signals. 2 kilometers out, they stopped, dug into a blind pocket beneath a spruce stand, and watched the lodge through thermal optics. 6 exterior guards moved like clockwork. 1 upper-story window glowed faintly. Vetrov was alive. They waited until 0300, when human alertness ebbed and shadows lengthened. Then, like surgeons at the appointed hour, they moved, silent, precise, and utterly committed. Inside the hunting lodge, time slowed to the rhythm of Hale's pulse, steady, deliberate, waiting for the moment to break. A single guard turned the corner, rubbing his eyes from fatigue. Drake moved with predatory speed. 1 hand clamped over the man's mouth. The other drove a narrow blade into the base of the skull. The body sagged soundlessly. Winters checked her watch. 2 minutes to internal patrol rotation, she mouthed. They advanced to the study door. Hale pressed her ear against the wood. Faint keystrokes clicked within. She signed go. Drake positioned for breach. Winters covered the corridor. A suppressed charge whispered, and the latch gave way. Armin Vetrov looked up from his laptop, light glinting off reading glasses. For an instant, surprise crossed his face, then recognition. Ah, he said softly, his accent a ghost of Moscow. The ghost from Kuner. Hale leveled her weapon at his chest. Armin Vetrov, you are a designated high-value target. Hands on the desk, slowly. He obeyed, palms open, gaze calm. I knew you'd come. I always wondered if it would be you. Laptop, Hale said. Passcodes. He smiled, small and certain. You think I keep secrets so carelessly? Everything worth knowing dies with me. Drake stepped forward to secure the laptop. Hale's voice remained flat, stripped of emotion. You ambushed my team. You killed 6 Americans. Vetrov tilted his head. And you killed many of mine. We serve flags, not consciences. This isn't vengeance, Hale said. It's the ledger closing. Outside, Winters whispered into comms. Movement east wing, 7 minutes. Vetrov sighed. We are not so different, you and I. Our governments use us, then discard us. Hale's finger tightened slightly on the trigger. Difference is, I still choose what I believe in. The suppressed shot was a sharp breath of sound. The round struck center mass between his eyes. Vetrov collapsed forward, eyes still open in mute acceptance. Target eliminated, Hale reported. Drake swept the drives and laptop into an encrypted pouch. Then came the first alarm, an electronic shriek splitting the silence. East Patrol found the bodies. Winters hissed. Move, Hale ordered. They retraced their path, sprinting through the corridor as shouts in Russian echoed. Gunfire followed, splintering doorframes. They burst from the window and rappelled into the snow. Engines roared from the lodge, 2 trucks starting pursuit. Ghost team veered into the trees. Alpha route compromised. Hale called into her mic, switching to Bravo. Primary complete, package secure. Drake's breath rasped in the cold. Vehicles on R6. Waypoint Echo, Hale said. They reached the rocky bend above the access road and dropped to prone. The first truck appeared, headlights slicing through snowfall. Winters squeezed the trigger twice. The first round shattered the engine block. The second ignited the fuel tank. Fire blossomed against the snow. The second truck skidded, stalled, and the men spilled out shouting. Move! Hale barked. They disappeared into the darkness again, the burning wreck behind them painting the white forest blood red. The hunt wasn't over, but the debt was paid. Snow whipped through the rotor wash as the MH-47 Chinook roared over the clearing, its searchlights slicing the storm. Ghost team burst from the tree line, 3 dark figures moving in unison. The helicopter's massive rotors beat the air like a pulse. Drake stumbled, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Winters caught him under one arm, dragging him the last few meters as Emma Hale turned, laying down controlled bursts to suppress the Russian security team closing in through the snow. Tracers hissed like fireflies. The Chinook's crew chief leaned out, shouting over the roar, Go! Go! Hale sprinted the final stretch. Bullets smacked into the frozen ground beside her boots. One ripped past her ear, the sound like tearing cloth. She vaulted the ramp and slapped the hull. Lift! The aircraft lurched upward, engines straining. The clearing dropped away. Gunfire faded beneath them until it was swallowed by the night. Inside the cabin, the world shrank to red light and ragged breathing. A medic pressed gauze against Drake's wound while Winters secured the encrypted pouch to a shockproof case. Hale sat opposite them, face streaked with grime, her eyes fixed on nothing. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind only exhaustion and the cold weight of completion. Overwatch, this is Ghost Lead, she said into her comms. Package secure. Eagle down. 1 wounded, non-critical. Static, then Briggs's voice, deep and steady. Copy, Ghost Lead. Outstanding work. QRF inbound to escort you home. At the command center in Romania, Captain Mercer exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He watched the blinking green dot on his tactical screen move west, safe airspace. Briggs gave a small nod, the closest he came to relief. They did it, Mercer said quietly. All of them came home. Briggs's reply was soft. That's what real leadership looks like, Captain. Dawn broke as the Chinook descended toward the forward landing zone, the first gold light slicing across the snow-dusted fields. Hale stepped off the ramp into that rising glow, boots crunching on frost. Mercer and Briggs waited at the edge of the tarmac. She saluted crisply. Mission complete, sir. Briggs returned the gesture, respect heavy in the silence. The sun climbed higher, burning the night away. The mission was finished, but the work, the calling, remained. For warriors like Emma Hale, there was no final victory, only the next shadow, the next quiet service, the next impossible task accepted without complaint. Because the true measure of strength, she knew, was not in domination, but in mastery, control, and the resolve to stand in darkness so others could live in light.
I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you. Folded hands, your love, support, likes, comments, and subscriptions mean the world to me. Without you, this journey wouldn't be possible. Every view, every share, and every encouraging word keeps me motivated to create more content for you all. I'm truly grateful to have such an amazing community by my side. Let's keep growing together and making this journey even more special. Red Heart.